Mike,
Jake,
good morning.
good morning.
How are you? Yeah.
Happy New Year. And I got to tell you, everybody at the end of last year was going, wow, I'm glad 2020 is over. Right about now, I'm missing 2020. Given the events of yesterday, I can't say that 2020 was all that bad.
Yeah. One of my friends said, I've made it through the 7-day trial for 2021 and I want my money back.
Yeah, I think 2020 is actually working on a fiscal year and it's not really over yet.
Oh man. So I got to start with I'm just mad about yesterday. Like I'm just I'm mad about what happened at the Capitol. And I might be mad for some different reasons than others. One of the things that I'm mad about is it happened in the middle of two giant other things going on. One is a pandemic, and the other is the SolarWinds breach, which we should really stop calling the SolarWinds breach and just be calling the Russia breach. But it's sort of taken our eye off the ball, right?
Well, it has taken our eye off the ball. So first of all, I mean, with respect to the events of yesterday, we have fusion centers, joint terrorism task force. Federal law enforcement has a well-developed intelligence function, and the yahoos that did this are known to telegraph what they're going to do in public forums. Okay, so everybody saw this coming. Where was law enforcement, right? The Capitol Police was hugely understaffed and not ready for this thing. And so there's a failure there that I think people are going to want to peel back the covers and say, where the hell was the law enforcement presence, given the fact that you knew this was coming?
Well, so there are a couple sides to that. I do want to call out a good friend of mine who I used to work with, Scott McFarland, who's a reporter at WRC in DC, and he tweeted this morning, we have heard zero from the Capitol Police in the last 24 hours. Like, that's crazy. No news conferences, no explaining what happened. But the other side of that, wow, I think was in a Washington Post article, which was, that after the Black Lives Matters protests this summer, where they had, the military on the Capitol steps, and I think everybody's seen the picture at this point, rows and rows of soldiers, and then not here. Part of that was that the military got a lot of criticism for that, and that there was a desire not to have that much criticism after another protest. But anyway, that's the other side.
Well, that may be the other side. Hey, we know this really bad thing is going to happen, but optics, let's not show up in force. I'm sorry.
So let's go back to cyber, though, for a second. Not just for a second, I guess for the rest of this, because that's what people are here for. They're not just here for our talk about what's going on in DC, but it does take our eye off the ball, right? I mean, the fact that the pandemic, whatever you want to call yesterday, insurrection, attempted coup, whatever, mob, whatever you want to call it, those things intersect and they have an impact on cybersecurity, right?
Yeah, and for example, so, I mean, just talking about the pandemic, right? We know the pandemic created the anxiety that led everyone to follow links that promise information, right? But the attempted overthrow of the United States government, or whatever that was, right? The rioters had physical access to government desktop systems, and you've probably seen the pictures, people there in front of somebody had to run away from their computer, didn't lock it, didn't do anything, right? So the possibility is that could have been used to introduce malware into the network. I don't think so. So every one of those systems now has to be flattened and re-imaged, and that's going to take some time, right? So there is an intersection between insurrection and the IT security of systems that run the government. So yeah.
And John and Gary have said good morning in the comments. I love that the comments are live this morning. Nothing like an insurrection to make sure that the comments are live.
That's right.
Live, right? And
fact,
you know,
let me give you one more point of intersection too, because I think, you know, the yahoos that stormed the Capitol, I don't think they were thinking that there is video surveillance everywhere. And that I've been in that building. You know, I don't know if you've been in that building, but there is video everywhere. And the facial recognition technology that's available to the United States is pretty good. So, you know, they may have wanted to make a statement, you know, this may be just something that got out of control in the heat of the moment, but every one of those folks is going to get ID'd.
Well, you say you don't know if I've ever been in that building. You forgot I was on the Y2K committee, Mike.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I've been on those computers. Well,
yikes.
Hopefully not the same ones, since that was 21 years ago, right? And Gary in the comments says, you know, many computers might have been stolen yesterday, and easy for a nation state to jump into that crowd. And not just, and by the way, Gary may or may not have seen this, not just maybe, but there are Congress people who are saying my computer is no longer here. Like, that's not just a maybe, that happened. So, but you know, speaking of federal government stuff, you know, we also need to hit, you know, SolarWinds, the SolarWinds sunburst hack. You know, CISA put out a new communication on it, right?
They did. And there's a bunch of new info. So first, and this wasn't in the CISA release, there's now another company involved, and it's called JetBrains. Why is it called JetBrains? Because all the good domain names had been taken by 1998. So this company is in the Czech Republic, and it makes software that allows developers to test and exchange software code before it gets released, you know, into GA, into general availability, right? So it's got a lot of customers, including SolarWinds. So I'm not sure that has anything to do with it, but it might. And they're investigating this now, and that could mean that this is much bigger than we thought it was. So that's a news story. But yes, CISA put out a communication, and let me just read the money quote here. Specifically, we're investigating incidents in which activity indicating abuse of security assertion markup language, with SAML, tokens consistent with this adversary's behavior is present, yet where impacted SolarWinds instances have not been identified. So let me just translate that. They're looking at another vector for the attack that doesn't involve SolarWinds in the exploit chain. Okay, the adversary is the Russians. All right. And in fact, there was a news release that came out with all the intelligence agencies saying, look, let's just make clear, Russians did this, right? I mean, to be completely unambiguous about it. So they're using virtual private servers, VPSs, in using IP addresses in the home country of the victim, right? So there's no way, you can't just block it. So these folks, you know, they're pretty scary. And, you know, by the way, now we know that the Department of Justice and the courts were compromised too.
The whole thing, you know, so unsettling. And by the way, if this turns out to be JetBrains and not SolarWinds, do we actually have to call this the JetBrains breach? Because
I hope not. God, I hope not.
I don't want to call it the JetBrains breach. As everybody who watches this every now and then knows, I work in marketing, and I'm not excited about typing JetBrains a lot of times. But okay.
Yeah, the JetBrains breach kind of sounds like what happened to Beckett.
All right. You know, Mike mentioned a PDF in there from CISA. I'll put that in the chat here as soon as I can wipe my brain of JetBrains. SolarWinds also getting class action treatment too, right? Yep. I read in the blast this morning, SEC is going after them for an omission of risk in their reporting. So, and that, hey, shareholder value, not so good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I got this one from the National Law Review. And yeah, the deal is, you know, you're supposed to now in your SEC reporting, you're supposed to report your risks. And, you know, if one of your risks is, you know, our security controls suck, you're supposed to say that. and I'm paraphrasing. But this was on January 4th, so this just happened. A shareholder filed a class action complaint against SolarWinds and SolarWinds corporate executives in the Western District of Texas, right? This is another Texas company, just like Tyler Technologies. Correlation, causality. They're going to be fined, I would imagine, from the SEC. Executives are likely to be removed. And there may be additional penalties from other victim organizations, right? If SolarWinds, we find out that their security controls were so bad and that led to all of this, affected companies are just going to pile on. So, this is going to turn into a real nightmare for executives. In fact, it probably already is. So again, if you want to talk security with your executives, don't say buffer overflow. Say gross negligence and class action, and your conversation will be much more fruitful. That's what terrifies them. SQL injection, they don't relate to that, but going to jail, they get that.
Oh, that takes me back to the protest from yesterday, but I digress. So, hey, what's this business about ZikX? What's it, ZikX? Is that how you say it?
ZikX, I don't know.
Again, naming companies, people, and naming things.
Yeah.
JetBrains, ZikX. Anyway.
Yeah.
But this one's about small businesses, right?
Yeah. These are firewalls and VPN gateways that are, let's call it, just above consumer grade. And the problem is there's a hard-coded and unchangeable password for the devices, which can be read in clear text from dumping the firmware, which is pretty easy to do. It has a CVSS score of 7.8 out of 10, which means it's pretty easy to exploit, and the exploit is going on right now. So if you are a small business or a home user with ZikX networking gear, you need to get patched now. Like, stop watching us on LinkedIn Live right now and go patch.
You just told people to stop watching. That's like... we don't do that. You say don't watch. This is like marketing, Mike. You don't tell people to stop watching.
Yes and no. I mean, we're trying to do a public service here.
You and your public service. I mean, really, like, my marketing is really getting in the way of your mission, or the other way around. Your mission is getting in the way of my marketing.
Eventually, we're going to figure out how to work this out. It takes time, Jake.
Mike, we've had time. All right. Who else has been hacked?
Someone has dumped 10,000 Amex accounts for free. It turns out that there's not really, great cardholder data in there, but, that's a story. Oh, this is interesting. I forgot who sent this to me. Singapore, you did. Singapore went back on its word and is using the contact tracing. Oh no, Mike Simon sent me this. They're using their contact tracing app for COVID, right? And initially they promised, hey, this is going to be kept completely private, everything's anonymous. And then they went, but now we think we're going to let law enforcement use this for criminal investigations. All right. So the impact of that is, people are just not going to trust something that the government gives you for, contact tracing, because things like this happen. Speaking of COVID, stolen COVID vaccine research data have been found on the dark web for sale. T-Mobile got hacked again, and some call records were lifted. Hacked home cameras are being used to live stream police raids as people are being swatted. You know what swatted is, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay. Ticketmaster has been fined $10 million for hacking a competitor, actually just using a password they had. I could go on. It's pretty, for, between Christmas break and now, there's been a lot of hacking going on.
I suppose not, not a big surprise with the way 2020 was going.
Yeah.
So is this going to result in any changes to InfoSec, federal support, changes in focus? What do we, so going forward into 2021, what do we expect?
Well, theoretically, according to reporting, security budgets are supposedly increasing, as is enforcement of the California Consumer Privacy Act and the California Privacy Rights Act. So get ready for privacy-driven security, which has been a prediction for a long time. There's going to be a lot more gnashing of teeth as we continue to find out just how deeply we've been compromised by the Russians. And there's going to be, you know, after January 20th, there's probably going to be some pretty vociferous statements, government to government, about that, whereas we haven't done that yet. And I think we can expect we'll continue to do free security awareness training. Just want to stick that ad in there since you're the marketing guy, just because I think it's important for us to do our part to help keep everyone from stepping on their own cyber.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. You know, last year we did security awareness trainings. Folks who watch us for a while know this, you know, and not just for InfoSec professionals or IT managers or whatever, but, you know, for anybody who wants to, you know, anybody who wants to come and learn. We had professors, we had accountants, we had HR people, we had a lot of rabbis. We had, you know, Mike prevented me from telling rabbi jokes, which was smart. And so, you know, if you have folks who, if you're watching this and you want to come, or you have folks who want to come, you know, I don't have the registration link right in front of me, but because I'm in the platform, I'm trying to get it here, and they've changed their page, and now, oh wait, here it is.
I hate computers.
It's a, you know, they upgraded or updated or something, and they changed everything on me. So I'll put the link in the chat here for people if they want to join or if they want to send it around. You know, speaking of things that I like from our audience here, the other thing is, one of the things that happened last year is we did a virtual tabletop based on a ransomware attack. And one of the things that we heard from people is, you know, that you know, I would really they said, you know, I want to do something about ransomware, but I figured out that buying, you know, this silver bullet solution doesn't actually work. What can I do? So we actually put together a group of services together. Put together a group of services together. How's that for English? We put together a group of services.
Bad.
It's bad, I know. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the link to what the services look like in the chat. And what I would love for everybody watching is to take a look at it and see what you think. You know, does this group of services do enough to battle ransomware in 2021? I'm really curious. Like, this is my market testing, you know, from marketing. So if you're watching, help me out. Doesn't help Mike out, but help me out. All right, Mike, what do you want to end with today?
So I have two uplifting stories. The first one is just, this is a really, really great hack. Hacking Google's Recaptcha. So everybody knows what a Recaptcha is. You're proving you're not a robot, right? So it turns out, right, they have an MP3 file there. And you can grab the MP3 file of the audio Recaptcha and you submit it to Google's own speech-to-text API. Google will give you the right answer in over 97% of the cases. That is awesome. That is such a cool, easy hack. And then finally, and you know, this was anticipated. In fact, I don't know what took it so long. Right? Remember we talk about how, you know, you use fantastic things as bait to get people to click on stuff. I don't know.
I hope what you're about to tell me. I hope it's something fantastic.
It is. There's an attack going on right now that uses the Trump sex tape as bait. It's actually malware that will give an actor full remote access to a compromised computer. So remember, just because you want to believe it doesn't make it true.
I have something funny to say, but can't because we're live on LinkedIn. So, man, I have a pithy line and I can't say it. Mike, that's a I hate that. Don't you hate when you have that thing?
That thing.
You just can't say it.
I know it's perfect, but not in this forum.
That's right. It is not. It's not the right thing. Well,
put it in the chat.
No, I'm not going to put it in the chat. Okay. I see there are a lot of people in chat. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us. Please join the security awareness training. Send me a note on LinkedIn. Just send me a LinkedIn note or email me at jake@ci.security because Mike finally got me the email address I deserve. Nice job, Mike. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.